The first flakes fell around 7 a.m., like soft warnings, dusting the quiet cul-de-sac in icy white. I was already outside, the glow from my garage lights reflecting off the snow as I guided my snow-clearing robot down the driveway. Its whirring hum was the only sound, predictable, reliable, comforting, until it stopped. I froze, breath fogging the cold. The machine sat idle at the curb, its sensors blinking red. And then I saw it, the gate to my garage ajar. That didn't happen. Not in this neighborhood. Not with me. My eyes darted across the street. There she was. Karen, tall, prim, white blonde hair pulled tight into a bun, hovering on her porch like a hawk, oversized mug clutched in hand, eyes narrowing as they met mine. She had that look. The one that said she was surveying, judging, and making decisions about my life without asking me first. Morning, I called, voice steady, hiding the pulse of irritation. Everything okay? Karen smiled. Too wide. Too sharp. I think you left your toy out again, she said, nodding toward the robot. Her tone was syrupy, but it carried ice. I didn't move. By the time I reached it, my robot was gone. Just gone. No tracks, no signs of struggle, except for one, subtle yet infuriating. The tiny corner of her driveway was slick with freshly plowed snow, dumped there with precise, deliberate cruelty. I stepped back, letting the cold slap my cheeks, trying to breathe past a sudden panic. This wasn't just neighborly interference. This was strategic, targeted, personal. I retreated to the warmth of my kitchen, pulling up the security feed. The footage showed her clearly, moving with practiced grace, almost ceremonious, pressing a button on a small device I didn't recognize. My robot lifted from the driveway, obedient, following her invisible command like a ghost in the machine. Okay, I muttered under my breath. This isn't random. This is her. I had lived here 5 years, kept my yard meticulous, greeted neighbors politely. Karen had rules for everything: lawn height, mailbox placement, even the permissible frequency of trash can placement on Tuesdays. But this was escalation. Outside, the snow fell harder, thickening like whipped cream. I watched her from the window, the way she traced the lines of her property with a critical eye, satisfied that her intrusion had been effective. I clenched my fists. Then a thought, a quiet, calculating spark, ignited. If she could control my robot, if she could disrupt my life with just a push of a button, then she had underestimated one thing. I knew the machine better than anyone. I designed its routines, memorized every sensor angle, calibrated every wheel torque. She had assumed I was helpless. I wasn't. Not yet. Outside, the wind whipped, carrying the sound of plastic scraping against concrete. My eyes narrowed on her door, the first subtle target in a long, unfolding game. And I realized the snowstorm was about to get personal. The morning after the theft, the neighborhood was deceptively quiet. Snow blanketed everything, but the hush felt fragile, like a held breath before a scream. I sipped coffee, staring at my laptop. Security footage wasn't enough. I needed logs, GPS data, firmware behavior, anything that could tell me how Karen had hijacked my robot. I opened the robot's control app, fingers flying over the keyboard. Every route it had taken yesterday, every obstacle avoided, every acceleration recorded. Nothing unusual, except for one anomaly, a subtle override signal. Remote, unauthorized, elegant, intentional, and precise. I traced the signal. IP address, masked, location, moving, direction, towards her house. My pulse quickened. Karen had done this before. She had planned it. The next step was observation. I layered myself into the neighborhood, walking past her house under the guise of a casual morning stroll. From the corner of my eye, I saw it, a small, black antenna poking out from behind a bush by her garage. Not a decoration. Not a birdhouse. Technology. Control hardware. I ducked behind a snow-covered bush across the street, scanning for cameras, listening for movements. Karen was outside, pruning her shrubs with precision, but I noticed the way her hand lingered over the hidden device. She was watching, waiting, testing, Later that night, I connected a spare robot to my network, experimenting. Tiny signals, coded sequences, careful manipulation. I had to learn her method without tipping her off. Slowly, deliberately, I built a digital map of her control routine. Every button she pressed, every timing delay, every hidden command. It was like decoding a lock, and the more I probed, the clearer the pattern became. Meanwhile, whispers of other incidents trickled in from neighbors. Trash cans mysteriously relocated, snow shoveled where it shouldn't be, decorative lights tampered with. Small pranks, nothing overt, but all pointed back to Karen. She had woven a silent web of control, her influence stretching beyond my driveway. I knew confrontation would be useless. She thrived on subtle domination. You called her out publicly, and she twisted the story, claimed innocence, smiled sweetly while you questioned your own sanity. I needed proof, hard proof, something she couldn't deny, something that would expose a meticulous tyranny she had built in this tiny, white-fence world. I set my own observation hub, cameras disguised as rocks, motion sensors hidden under snowbanks, network traps to catch her digital manipulations in real time. Every movement she made, every command she sent, I recorded, quietly, invisibly. Then, the first real opportunity came. Karen left for the grocery store, oblivious. I sent a small scout drone, disguised under the thick snow, to hover near the hidden antenna. What I found made my stomach tighten. A tiny transmitter, synced directly to my robot's firmware, cleverly disguised as a landscape light. The sophistication. It was professional grade, not just a bored HOA hobbyist. This wasn't just Karen being Karen. This was a calculated intrusion. And the moment I realized that, the weight of the situation hit me. She wasn't just messing with a robot. She was testing boundaries. Pushing, probing. Seeing how far she could control people, spaces, lives. And I had just become her target. The HOA meeting started with the usual hum of polite greetings and the soft scrape of chairs against linoleum. Everyone was bundled in winter coats, coffee cups steaming in hand, unaware that today's discussion would erupt into chaos. I walked in last, carrying my tablet like a shield and a weapon all at once. Karen was already at the podium, standing tall, perfect smile in place. She began with the usual litany. Community rules, snow removal standards, and a subtle dig about neighbors who leave toys on driveways. Every eye in the room flicked toward me, every eyebrow arched in judgment. I took a deep breath. Calm, calculated. The moment had to be precise. I tapped my tablet. The hidden robot I had connected to the neighborhood network whirred to life, invisible to everyone but me. A second later, a series of tiny snow-clearing machines, my own mini drones disguised as snow debris, began shoveling snow, but not where it belonged. Karen's pristine walkway became a miniature avalanche of icy chaos. Gasps filled the room. Karen's face flickered. The first crack in her armor. What is... I tapped again. The live feed from the neighborhood cameras appeared on the big screen behind the podium. Every manipulation, every small intrusion she had committed. The hidden transmitters, the relocated trash cans, the hijacked robot, all documented in high definition. The room's polite murmur turned to shocked chatter. Karen's jaw tightened. Her eyes darted, searching for an escape. This is ridiculous, she hissed, her tone sharp but strained. Not ridiculous, I said evenly, walking toward the podium. Meticulously orchestrated. For months, you've been controlling, harassing, testing us all. Today, your little experiments are on display. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the calm she projected. She tried to regain control, pointing at the robots as if to dismiss them. But each time she gestured, another device responded. Carefully programmed sequences I had deployed in advance. Every command she tried to issue backfired, highlighting her intrusion instead of hiding it. Neighbors leaned forward, some whispering, some staring wide-eyed. The power in the room shifted, subtle but undeniable. Karen's perfect mask cracked further with each second. She opened her mouth, but no words came. My calm, deliberate voice filled the space, recounting evidence, Time-stamp proof, network logs, every step of her manipulations. The tipping point came when a drone nudged a light dusting of snow right onto her expensive shoes. The room erupted in laughter, sharp and incredulous. Karen spun, red-faced, flustered, and in that instant, she was no longer the untouchable enforcer of HOA law. She was human, vulnerable, exposed. I stepped back, letting the room absorb the revelation. The snow continued to fall outside, mirroring the storm of emotions inside. Karen's power had collapsed, not with shouting, not with violence, but with quiet, undeniable truth. And yet, as she slumped into her chair, muttering about, "This won't end here," I noticed it. A small device on her belt, blinking faintly. Not part of her prior arsenal. Something new, something larger. I froze, just for a fraction of a second, the thrill of victory tempered by a cold realization. This fight wasn't over. The sun rose over the cul-de-sac, the snow sparkling like shattered glass. Quiet returned, but it was a fragile, tense quiet, different from the usual post-storm calm. Neighbors moved slowly, some still shaking their heads in disbelief, others whispering praises. The HOA had convened an emergency session to reassess procedures, but everyone knew the real event had happened the night before. I walked outside, gloves snug, tablet in hand, surveying the aftermath. My robot hummed softly nearby, dutifully clearing a patch of sidewalk, oblivious to the tension it had helped uncover. Across the street, Karen's house was silent. The meticulous symmetry of her snow-covered lawn was ruined. Piles shifted, pathways blocked, the perfect order she demanded gone. Neighbors approached cautiously. Mrs. Patel, the retired schoolteacher, gave a timid smile. I can't believe she did all that," she said. "And you proved it." "Honestly, thank you." I nodded, brushing snow off my coat. It wasn't just about proving her wrong. It was about showing everyone she couldn't control us. There was a collective exhale, relief tempered by lingering tension. The subtle rules of the cul-de-sac had shifted. People were smiling again, chatting more openly, reclaiming their space. Karen stayed inside, silent, watching, her authority reduced to a thin veneer. But even in victory, I couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't finished. When I returned to my house, I checked the logs and the hidden cameras one last time. Everything seemed calm until I noticed it. A faint signal, almost imperceptible, pulsed intermittently. It wasn't from Karen's devices, not from her network. It was something else, something new, a presence I hadn't traced before. Smooth, professional, deliberate. Someone or something had been observing our showdown, waiting, learning. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the neighborhood I had just fought to protect. The snow fell steadily, blanketing the cul-de-sac in deceptive serenity. The robot idly whirred beside me, its sensor scanning the yard, unaware that its next task might be far more dangerous. A notification blinked on my tablet. A single line of text appeared. No sender, no context. Clever. But the game has just begun. My stomach tightened. I knew immediately that Karen had not been acting alone, or at least not without encouragement. Someone bigger, smarter, more patient was out there, watching the quiet cul-de-sac like a chessboard. And the moment they decided to make their move, no amount of snow or technology would be enough to stop them. I exhaled slowly, letting the cold air fog my glasses. The neighbors were safer now. The immediate threat neutralized, but the feeling of unease lingered, crawling like frost over my skin. Outside, the wind whispered to the bare branches, carrying a faint echo of machinery, a distant hum, too low to identify, but unmistakable. The game had changed, and somewhere in the white silence, a bigger enemy was already planning the next move. The storm had ended, but the shadow of it remained,